Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. And many more. And many more. And many more. Well, it's Monday. Welcome to Daring Dialogues Black Table Talk edition, the melanated mic for Mondays. I am your host today, Shante Charles, and let's do a couple of checks here. Let's see. Check, 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 check. Good morning, Black people. Check. Good morning to people who are not Black, who just want to pop in and see what Black people are doing, saying, thinking, and talking about. Good morning to our followers, listeners, viewers, those who will catch the replay. Good morning to you all. It has been a very, very interesting weekend, has it not? We know that a decision, a initial vote has been reached to bring us or to begin to bring us out of a shutdown that I believe is on its 40th, 41st, or 42nd day, something of that nature. And a lot of people are mad, and rightly so. And rightly so. And rightly so. Because if it's one thing the Republicans are going to do, it is going to promise that they're going to give you something and then turn around and don't give you the thing that they promised you in order to get you to agree with them so they can do more damage to the nation and its people. This is their record. And so, yes, a lot of people are upset that 8 of the Democrats folded. Now, of course, many of those Democrats are not planning to, they're not up for reelection, and they're not planning to apply again for that particular office. So they didn't care to hold the line. So that's where we are with that. Good morning to those of you coming in. We are simultaneously broadcasting on YouTube and also on Facebook today. This is the only day where we simulcast to our Facebook audience. Also in the news this morning, the Supreme Court is going to decide whether states can count ballots that arrive after Election Day. The Supreme Court has agreed to decide whether federal law prohibits states from counting ballots that arrive after Election Day, even though they might be postmarked before Election Day. Felon 4547 has long railed against mail-in voting and has argued that allowing these ballots to be counted after Election Day creates opportunities for fraud. He has claimed that the practice undermines voter confidence by making it impossible to quickly announce final results. However, the laws of about 30 states authorize counting mail-in ballots after Election Day, with officials contending that the grace period aids voters, including military personnel. So he's messing over the military personnel again, just keeping record here. Includes military personnel whose ballots are delayed for reasons outside their control. So yes, one more barrier, one more obstacle to people being enfranchised to vote. The Supreme Court announced in a routine order list today that it will grant review to challenges the Republican National Committee and the Mississippi Libertarian Party filed against that state's law allowing mail-in ballots postmarked by election day to be counted if they arrive within 5 business days after the election. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals struck down the Mississippi law last year, holding that it is at odds with a trio of federal laws establishing a uniform nationwide day for voting in federal elections. So just to be clear, and good morning to those of you who are coming in, just to be clear, they are yet shoring up all the possible opportunities they can to make sure that they can swing votes their way. Just so we're clear on what the agenda is here. All right. What else has gone on? I am just checking my feeds here. I put out a math problem over the weekend, and the math problem is called Felonious Math. In other words, math created by the felon. All right, let's take a look at this felonious math problem and see if you can give me what you think is going to be the answer to this equation. Let's see, let's pull it up here. There it is. All right, so here is the felonious math problem. Flight cancellations plus postal delivery delays, because the UPS is grounding several of their planes and flights. So that means anybody who's thinking about sending things over the holidays, you might as well start trying to send it now. There was one year under the same felonious president last time that some of us did not get packages until 6 to 7 weeks after the holidays. I remember getting a Christmas card a whole year later. But now we have more postal delivery delays. So we have flight cancellations, postal delivery delays, so flight cancellations plus postal delivery delays plus higher groceries. It is said that the cost of a turkey is going to be 75% higher than last year, plus the holidays. What does that equal? Because I don't think people are thinking far enough ahead about what does this equal. So whether it's delays in flights, I had a friend of mine say they had to try to get a car. Their flights got grounded or whatever. They had to try to get a car. They couldn't get a car. So people are now renting out the U-Hauls to try to drive to wherever they need to go. It's an increase of traffic on the road overall. So if you're living in a airport city or city with a major airport, these are things you might want to consider. Again, the higher grocery prices. I know in my region, I've seen prices jump double in the last couple of weeks. We know as the holidays continue to arrive and move in, things are going to be priced higher. Okay. So what does all of this spell? If you're planning on traveling, you want to think about that now. Again, you don't want to find yourself renting a U-Haul, trying to get to where you need to go because there are no rental cars, or your flight is canceled, or your flight is grounded. So be thinking about that when it comes to travel. This is flights being canceled at more than 40 major airports. So this is not just, let's see here. This is not just, Atlanta or LAX. This is 40 major airports across the country where flights are being canceled. All right. And even if we get out of this shutdown mode in the next week or so, there still has to be time to get things back and running in place. Okay. So keep that in mind. Also, the Congressional Budget Office was hacked. What is the Congressional Budget Office, you might be asking? It's the nonpartisan office that provides analysis of our federal budgets our economic issues. It maintains functions such as creating cost estimates for our government, for proposed legislation. It produces baseline budget and economic outlook reports. It offers technical assistance to congressional committees. They do not make policy recommendations, but they provide the information that is necessary for Congress to make informed decisions. And that has been hacked. Lots of stuff happening with our government. Okay. Here in Maryland on Friday afternoon, KKK Recruitment Flyers were found near a Maryland high school. They were not found on the campus, but they were found in a cross section, in an intersection where students stand to go home. And I will keep saying this. People keep saying, why do we keep talking about certain topics? We will have to talk about it as long as it continues to exist. Adults have a responsibility to teach young people about the poisons that America decided to inject into its foundation. And as long as those poisons exist, and as long as we don't work as a nation to extract ourselves from the venom, then we have to continue to teach young people about what the poison is and about how to fight it. All right. Also, over the weekend, there was a short video that went out with, I like to call him my evil birthday twin, because unfortunately I share a birthday with this guy. Banana Bannon at another supremacist rally decided to tell them in no uncertain terms, listen, we have to put aside our differences. This is what he is telling the pseudo supremacists. He said, we have to put aside our differences and we have to get to the business of making all of these evil plans happen, and we have to do it rapidly. We have to keep the pressure on them. And then he said something very important that I think slipped by a lot of people, that we keep talking about in this space. He said, we have to codify what the felon, he didn't say felon, I say felon. We have to codify what the felon has done by executive order. Because most people know that executive orders can be canceled, they can be rescinded, they can be overturned by the coming administration. And he basically said, listen, there won't be another felon 4547 like the one we have. And so get all of your evil done. Get all of your evil solidified. And then on top of that, we've got to codify it. Why? Because as I say, racism is spelled Policy. I've got to make sure that it goes into policy, that is codified, and that it sticks. That's essentially what he's telling the pseudo supremacists. We've got to make these things stick because winter is coming for them. We should all be glad about it. Winter is coming for the Neanderthal who wants to destroy everybody else's life while they live the high life. And because winter is coming, they want to make sure that their place, their power is codified and secure, so that even if, as Dr. Stacey Patton wisely said, even if they don't win the demographic race, they maintain the economic power. They maintain the power over systems. And that's why we're going to keep saying that it's not just, people think of racism as just an individual issue, or they think of it as, I don't like you, and that's all there is. That's all it is. People who just don't like each other. No. These are people who are codifying things so that their power remains frozen with them, and it can't be unfrozen, or at least for another 50 to 100 years. So that is what people are up against. And I think people are thinking too short term with a lot of our political leaders. I just think they're too what's the word I want? Short sighted. They keep only thinking, oh, the next 3 months. Look at what's happening with this shutdown agreement. Oh, we're going to push it to January. Okay, well, January 30th, what then? You're short sighted. You think in 3-month increments, they're thinking in 300-year increments. Short sighted. So, yeah, we're already in a bad position right now with the people on the Supreme Court. And the only way to fix that is to expand the courts. One of the major ways to fix it is to expand the court. Otherwise, we're going to have another 50 to 100 years of just bad policies just being rubber stamped through the Supreme Court. So, yeah, I want you to think about that. They already know that if there is a flip in 2026 and they lose the majority, they know they're going to jail. Good morning. They said it explicitly. He did. He said, if we lose power, some of you in this room are going to jail, including myself. So you already know. They know what they're doing is evil. They know what they're doing is wrong. There's no moralizing with them about what they're doing. Let's be clear. They understand that what they're doing is evil. They don't care. And you cannot make them care. Because probably most of them went through the ceremony called the cremation of care. Go look it up. The cremation of care. Mm-hmm. You know, where you have to crucify your human compassion in order to do evil without a conscience, which is what they're essentially doing. So trying to appeal to them in a moral framework or a moral sense is not going to work. They know it's evil. They understand it's evil. They don't care as long as their position in life and their posterity is solidified. So trying to appeal to them from a moral lens ain't gonna work. Not especially when they've turned Jesus into a Klans member. That's another thing. When they see Jesus, they see a Klans member. So trying to hold up the Christ of Scripture to them also isn't going to work. All right. What else is happening here? We know that tomorrow is Veterans Day. We will not be on tomorrow. We are going to take a station break and make sure that we go and take care of our elders and pay respects in that way. There is still talk going on about the New York City mayoral race. Now that that mayoral race is over, it is being reported that some of the police officers are threatening to leave, and that Mumdani is on a sort of an apology tour about some of his ideas and some of his rhetoric that took place during the election. He's already on an apology tour. Another issue happening, and I totally agree with this. This is out of Chicago. Driver live streams herself on TikTok. And while she does this, she apparently hits and unlives a man while she is driving. And her children were also in the car. As my friend here has said, nothing, and I do mean nothing, no piece of content is worth risking your life or someone else's over. Stop filming while driving. It's essentially like the laws that say you really shouldn't be on the phone while you're driving. Stop filming, live streaming while you're driving. I mean, we shouldn't have to say this, but I will tell you that there's been several times I've been on the road lately and, it's 40 miles per hour in town and the people driving in front of me are doing 25. I know they're more than likely looking down literally at their phone like this while they're driving. So I get from behind them, I drive to the side, I glance over, and sure enough, they have their whole phone in their hands looking down while driving. Why are we doing this? You mean tell me you can't stop off to a gas station, parking lot, side of the road, somewhere? Why are we doing this? It's an endangerment to people's lives. So yeah, now there has to be some laws around that. And one of the things that they did say that people are thinking about as a recommendation is for some of these social media sites to start penalizing people who are live streaming while driving. The other possibility is in sort of an auto shut off. If you go live and they can realize that you're driving while you're going live. Now, we're not talking about sitting in your car live streaming in a parking lot. We're talking about people who are literally driving and live streaming, that maybe they can develop some sort of mechanism, being that, they have all of these extra people watching Black pages and dinging us for things that are not safety violations. Maybe they can use some of that energy. And the people that are live streaming while driving, they can just automatically cut their live stream as a safety precaution for them and whoever else is around them. I actually think that's a good idea. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. All right. Last thing I want to share with you before we get into our reading is a couple of books that I picked up over the weekend. This one is a storytelling version of Black history, and I don't want to say it's set up like Black AF history. It's way shorter, but it's called Black History is for Everyone. So if you're saying, hey, I can't get through Michael Harriot's book, you're actually reading it aloud today. His is pretty lengthy. This is a shorter one by another scholar. Black History is for Everyone. And it has more of a storyteller's feel. Brian Jones has taught in New York City's public schools and the City University of New York. He served as the inaugural director for the Center for Educators in Schools at the New York Public Library, and also as the associate director of education at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. So if you're looking for a shorter read, this is a shorter read. And then I saw this one and I knew that I was going to buy it just by the title. It says, How I Know White People Are Crazy and Other Stories. Notes from a Frustrated Black Psychologist. And he is talking about the disparities that have happened in the psychological field. It is a thought-provoking, funny, and searing indictment of mental health systems for patients, students, and professionals alike. It will leave you thinking differently about psychologists and the psychological field. Going to be an interesting read. All right, let's hop into Black AF history. I'm going to read for about 10 minutes because I've had a lot of short announcements to get to today. We are in the section called The Church Fight That Started Slavery. And we're talking about how we got to the church. How did we get to the church and its money being involved in the New World? And the last place that we stopped, we talked about Columbus's friend, who was a banker. The banker went to Portugal's new ruler, King Mayoral I. King Manuel I was impressed by the banker's knowledge of geography, and they're getting ready to do this expedition. And the banker has been making stuff up. So we are going to back up just a little bit so you get some context, and then we'll keep reading, okay? Although Columbus's friend had lost a lot of money on his investment in the voyage, he recognized that Columbus had made a contribution, but he wasn't convinced Columbus should get all the credit. After all, it was mostly the banker's idea. Theoretically, he should be as famous as Columbus, but how could he convince the public? So the banker went to Portugal's new ruler, King Manuel I. Like his great uncle Henry the Navigator, Manuel the Fortunate was all about exploration and expansion. Manuel, however, wasn't worried about Spain's exploration of the West Indies. He was content to let Spain have a few islands in the middle of nowhere because in 1498, Portuguese explorers had finally found a sea passage to India. On the way back, the Portuguese Armada had even found an island east of the Pope's infamous line. Still, Manny was impressed by the banker's knowledge of geography, especially when the banker detailed his previous expeditions to the West Indies. The banker showed Manuel charts and maps of places that no one had ever seen. The slick-tongued financier even wrote 2 books detailing his travels that became extremely popular in Europe. Enchanted by the tales, Manuel convinced the banker to quit banking and join a Portuguese expedition as the Armada's official cosmographer. There was only one problem. The banker was lying. He was a banker. It's not like he studied atlases he bought from gas stations or downloaded from Google Maps. Accurate maps were treasured back then, and this smooth-talking banker, bamboozled Manny into believing he had charted the known world, even though he didn't even know how to pilot a ship. Half of the expeditions, he told King Manuel, were totally made up. Still, Manuel fell for it and put the banker in charge of the Portuguese Armada's next trip. Can you imagine? Good morning. Oh my God. You done put somebody in charge of a ship who done told you all these lies about supposed places they've been to, and they don't know anything. Wait a minute. Somebody in charge of the ship that's supposed to be leading the new world who doesn't know anything. Wow, that rings a bell. All right, we're gonna keep going. During their journey, the crew slowly realized that their cosmographer didn't know anything about cosmographing and had barely been on a ship in his life. For instance, when explorers discovered a river on January 1st, 1502, the banker didn't even know he was in charge of naming things. So he just called it the January River or Rio de Janeiro. As for the new land, later merchants looked around and recognized a tree growing in abundance, the Brazil wood, and began referring to the new island by its most abundant export, the land of the Brazil. It stuck. By the time the expedition returned to Portugal, the banker's ruse was up. The crew realized that he didn't know anything about navigating. In fact, the banker was so terrible at his job that more experienced navigators had to explain that they hadn't been island hopping, they were exploring one giant landmass. The banker still couldn't let Columbus one-up him, so he ran back to Spain and started spreading the rumor that Portugal had found a new continent all because of him. He even produced a letter that most historians now believe was a hoax, which gave him credit for everything on the official Portuguese map, including the new continent and its banal name, the New World. After Christopher Columbus died in 1506, the banker began spreading the idea that he had taught Columbus everything he knew about exploring, and the public started to buy it. In 1507, someone took all the geographic information from Henry the Navigator, Portuguese explorers, and the late Christopher Columbus and combined it into one atlas, the Introduction to Cosmography. The book was meant to accompany a mass-produced wall map and globes. It had no new information and held no historical significance, except for the fact that it published that fake letter from the banker and the author suggested a new name for the New World. I see no reason why anyone could properly disapprove of a name derived from that of Amerigo, the discoverer, a man of sagacious genius. A suitable form would be Amerige, meaning land of Amerigo or America. 3 decades later, Gerardus Mercator's influential map would name the North and South continents after the charlatan Amerigo Vespucci. Even though he had done nothing, Vespucci's name would be entrenched in history, making his namesake the perfect one for a country built on deception and lies. Good God Almighty. And good morning to those of you who are coming in. By the early 1500s, the crown had profited dramatically from Columbus's exploration. In 1503, Isabella created the Casa de Contratación, a trading corporation that was essentially the Spanish version of the Casa de Guinea. Isabella put Vespucci in charge of its maps, pilot training, and ship licensing in 1508. Spain was mining copper and gold and farming sugar in their new colonies in Hispaniola, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and throughout the Caribbean. The conquistadors forced the indigenous islanders into servitude and killed those who did not submit. But in 1512, Catholic priests convinced King Ferdinand to pass a set of regulations that officially forbade enslaving colonial natives. The laws of Burgos originated from Catholic friars who disliked the inhumane treatment. The priests wrote damning letters and pleading sermons suggesting that the Spanish should convert the new Indians to Christianity instead of abusing them. The priests' protests didn't matter. The indigenous people were dying anyway. The natives had no natural immunity to European diseases, so entire Caribbean populations died from the diseases. Hispaniola native Taino population went from 500,000 to 200 in less than 50 years because they were literally allergic to white people. Selah. It took 40 years for 90% of Cuba's population to disappear. 40 years. Puerto Rico's took 30 years. But those priests were not altogether altruistic in their protests. This was not about human rights. They fully understood that building an entirely new society required human subjugation. Nearly all of them agreed that there was a better way to go about colonizing the New World: African enslaved persons. Desperate, the Spanish colonizers took the priest's advice and brought African slaves to the New World. But because Portugal still owned the African human being market, the first Africans in the Spanish colonies were actually bought from Portuguese traders, enslaved on the Iberian Peninsula, and then hauled as cargo to the New World. So while I get people harping on these other countries, I really haven't heard a lot of people bring up the Portuguese in all of these reparations claims. They seem to stay out of the fray. Looking at you, Portuguese. All right. The Spanish believed that these Africans would be immune to European diseases and, quote unquote, sturdier. Meanwhile, Portugal was making a fortune from harvesting the Brazil wood trees and growing sugar in Brazil. Then Portugal discovered an actual gold mine in Brazil. South America turned out to be a profitable investment, but how was Portugal's small population supposed to colonize 2 continents and extract the resources of an entire new world? The answer brings us back to Nuno Tristallo and Antonio Goncalves. Remember when they purchased that first batch of humans that we talked about last time? When the African negotiator paraded out the prisoners, those 150 captives included Europeans, Jews, Berbers, and some Africans. As a devout Christian, Goncalves knew the church wouldn't appreciate him bringing Muslims back to Portugal after ousting the Moors from the peninsula. The Europeans already likely had their own religion, as did the Jews. But Goncalves figured that the darker Africans would be less likely to flee captivity, would work harder, and be easier to convert to Christianity. One simple-minded decision would later be reinforced by Henry the Navigator's rules, Catholic decrees, the Casa de Guinea's rudimentary version of corporate regulation, and stereotypes that would last until this very day. Goncalves scanned the diverse parade of prisoners and asked himself which ones would make the best enslaved persons. Then he chose the Black ones. Mm, mm, mm. That is the end of chapter 2. Next time, we're going to look at his supplemental reading here. He goes a little bit more in detail about before the first African Americans. And so we will start there. And I do like the fact that he does have these little quizzes at the end of each section. We won't go over his quizzes today, but he does have them at the end of each section. They're more sarcasm and humor than they are like actual quiz. All right. What do y'all think about that? That out of all the people that were being enslaved, because many people do go around and they say, oh, there were other people being enslaved. They were. Africans weren't the only. But they were the ones who were singled out. And then you get to the Americas and you have Bacon's Rebellion. And then they get to be the ones that are singled out for enslavement into perpetuity. Anybody know how long perpetuity is? In the perpetuity is also a word, by the way, that's used in a lot of music contracts. You know, when these artists say they can't get their work back, they got to wait 25, 30 years before they can try to get the rights to their work back. I think Dave Chappelle mentioned that too. One of his contracts, you know, they want to own his name, or they want to own his work in all kind of different forms throughout the universe into perpetuity, meaning if we discover another world, we still own it, own the other world. Thank you. Yes. Forever. All right. So when people keep saying, I don't understand what's the difference between the slavery that Black people were in and the slavery that other people were in, perpetuity. Perpetuity. That's the difference. Perpetuity. Other people's enslavement could come to an end. Indentured servitude, 7 years. Into perpetuity means you and everything that comes after comes out of you, and everything that comes out of you that came out of you, and everything that comes out of you that came out of you that came out of you that came out of you. Perpetuity. That's the difference. And we are currently in a system right now that wants to go back to perpetuity and subjugating people. Only they don't just want to drag Black people back into that. They want to drag everybody that is not of the 1%. Hear me. Because it won't just be Black people this time. It's going to be everybody that ain't in the 1%. Yeah. So, yeah. You can stack your coins. But you have no competition for a person whose net worth is $1 trillion. I don't care how much money you got. All right. A person who has $1 trillion in their net worth doesn't care about your 1 million. To them, you still a part of the 99%. All right. So anybody who thinks, oh, I have enough money I won't be included. Keep thinking that. Keep thinking that. The people united will never be defeated. All right. I'm going to have the talk back now. I believe that I'm going to do the talk back on YouTube. And the reason why I say that is because Facebook deletes our videos every 30 days. So in order to make sure I have the full video, my talk back is going to be right now on YouTube. So if you want to continue talking with us and hear what we're going to say in the talk back, meet us over at youtube.com/@LifeNationKC. If you have the YouTube app, all you have to do is go into your YouTube app and type in Life Nation KC, hit channel, and it'll pull us up. All right. I want to thank you all on Facebook for your time and attention today. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. I am not a bot. I'm a human being. I have to say that these days. I am not a bot. I'm a human being. I am not foreign. I'm born right here in the United States of America. Descendants of mighty, formerly enslaved persons and indigenous Americans. All right. I'm very proud of my heritage, and nobody can tell me anything about my peoples. Took at least 1,000 of them to keep me here, to make sure I'm here today. So we thank you for your time, and we thank you for your attention. Be well, most importantly, and if we don't see you on YouTube, keep being light. All right. Let me see if I can bring you on, Ben. Let's hope I don't have any issues today. Crossing my fingers. All right. All right. I have sent you the join link. Let's hope our volume stays up. I know that sometimes when you come in, people say the volume drops. So I will talk a little bit louder. Public service. Fa la 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 loud. Fa la 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 loud. All right, let me know if you see that invite. I just sent it. All right. And I don't know. Last week it was not allowing me to see you visually at all. Let's see if it pops you in today. Good morning. Give it a minute to connect. Good morning. I can see you, but I can't hear you yet.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay. Your volume is a little low.
Your volume is low too.
Oh, okay.
All right, can you hear me now? Is it better?
I hear you better. I hear you better.
All right, I'm bringing it close. I don't want you guys looking up my nostrils. So I'm gonna bring it closer and try not to have you all looking up my nostrils. All right, here we go.
So I wonder if this guy, this banker, that convinced people that he could do something that he had no idea about doing and that he couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if he was an ancestor of 45, 47.
You know, that's a good question. I know they are. I think his family is German, but it's worth looking into, 'cause they seem to have the same traits, right?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. I even, during the election, I even had a person saying that he has experience at president
Mm.
and Harris doesn't, right? And I'm like, name one president that had experience at being president before they were elected to be president. that shows you that I guess MAGA's mind doesn't even function.
But here's the thing. Even when he had his quote unquote experience, he tore up the country.
Yes, he did.
1.2 million people died on his watch. So why would you
Mm-hmm.
hand the country back over to a person who essentially allowed mass murder
Mm-hmm.
by epidemic? This is why I keep saying it should have been a no, it should have been a no-brainer to not allow this man back in office. But it's almost like they were not devastated enough. So let me ask for 4 more years of devastation.
Yeah.
Because like I said, and I knew it was I felt it was gonna happen, that people were gonna get into a lull. They were gonna lower their guard because they actually had a sane person in right after him.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like people kind of they exhaled a little bit, they breathed a little bit. You didn't see Biden putting himself in the news every single day, every single week. For those 4 years, we didn't have um the feeling where we were like waking up to fires having to be put out every single day. He wasn't wearying, right? He wasn't exhausting in that way. He wasn't exhausting in that way. And it's like I felt like that 4 years was just giving him an opportunity. It was giving pseudo supremacy opportunity to regroup, to
Mm-hmm.
come back and do worse.
Yep. Now you said a few key things. You said a no-brainer,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of proving that a certain group of people either has no brains or they don't have the capacity to actually think. And then you spoke about Biden not being in the news every day. He didn't put himself in front of the camera and on the news every day. While he wasn't doing that, 45, 47 was.
Mm-hmm.
See, he wasn't president anymore, but he couldn't disappear like most presidents do when they're not president.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He spent all 4 years he was off campaigning to get back in. And people kept saying, oh, people aren't going to let him back in. I was like, listen, y'all not paying attention. Y'all not paying attention. When he decided to build, quote unquote, I call it lie social, because we really shouldn't associate the word truth with anything he says. When he started building lie social, I knew it was going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
When that home dude bought Twitter, which they never should have allowed him to do,
Mm-mm.
you sold American information at that point. Any information, personal information that Americans had, you sold it at that point to somebody who was from South Africa. That was the first,
Mm-hmm.
to me, breach of American data to an outside interest when you did that. And then our government didn't offer any real regulations around it because next thing you know, all of the guardrails about speech started getting taken off that platform. They were the first to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So then you had this influx of hate speech and hate groups come in. And then Meta decided, oh well, they laxing their rules. We gonna lax our rules. We gonna relax our rules. And
Mm-hmm.
so now we just have you don't really have a platform now that you can go on that's controlled by people that are not black, where these things are being regulated. Even if you open up an account on Substack, they over there. You open up an account on Blue Sky, they over there. You open up an account on Threads, they over there. And so it's like there's no place of escape for anybody that's saying, "Hey, this kind of speech is not allowed on our platform." Now
Right.
you do have the Black App Spill. They do a little bit of regulating, but like I said, they're black owned. But these other spaces, they're not really regulating this stuff, not like they
Mm-mm.
were. But they what they are regulating is black people complaining about it.
No, they don't regulate those spaces unless you're a black person educating black people.
Mm-hmm.
See, then that's a problem. But when
And
Proud Boys were recruiting and spewing hate speech, that was they didn't violate their policies
mm-hmm.
until they actually hurt somebody.
Yep.
Then they
And
wanted
then
to
they ran
distance themselves.
and then they ran to snatch down all the pages. I was like, y'all some lying wonders.
Hmm.
Because I reported like 50 of their pages and they all came back with this does not go against our community standards. I was
Hmm.
like, okay, all right. Now, oh, we're so shocked and appalled that these things happen on our platform. Liars. Liars.
Hmm. Right. Liars. But so there's so much craziness going on that's ridiculous. But now that guy did say that smart people don't like him.
He did.
That should have been a clear message to those that support him. He's telling them that they're not smart.
They
But
didn't take
hey,
it that way though.
I know they didn't. So that proved his point.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sometimes
We're
you
go-
gotta laugh to keep from crying.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think too, with this government shutdown, I think people are seeing what I have continued to say, and I'm going to continue to say it. The Democrats and the Republicans are on the same spectrum. They are. Now, there's not much we can do about it because we are in a two-party system. So the only thing we can do right now is put people in that will reduce harm. And right now we have 8 people that have said, "Well, I'm not being reelected, so it doesn't matter what I vote because I'm not coming back." And I said that is the problem that most people have with Democrats is because when the tough get going and the going get tough, they crash out. Every time people say we need y'all to hold the line, what do they go do? You know, if we could pair the diligence of the Republicans with, I'm saying if we could pair the diligence of the Republicans with good policy, we might have a good
Oh,
country
well,
here.
no, that's the truth. Because they're going to stand, as we say, stand on business. They're going to stand on their business.
Right.
See, they're going to stick together on their policies to destroy the country.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yep.
going to stick together on that. They're not going to sway. On the other hand, as you said, Democrats, see, but these 8 people actually show who they really are.
Mm-hmm.
They show that they're not really for the people.
But here's the
They were just
thing.
looking out for their job while they were there.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. It's gonna hurt everybody because they're on their way out. So it's not like they're gonna be punished. They're on their way
Right.
out. They've collected their money. They've done what they're gonna do, And some of them we already know. Some of them buying their villas in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Because when stuff hits the fan, they gonna be out of here. Let's be clear about that. The people
Mm-hmm.
that can leave are going to leave,
Mm-hmm.
even if they
Yeah.
say, "I'm gonna just go live for another 4 years over in another country, so I don't have to deal with the direct impact of what's happening." They're not gonna stay around. They're not gonna stay around. They gonna cut tail, as the elders will say. They gonna cut tail and run.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. But it's sad. It's sad. And see, that's why you find people that like people like Crockett, AOC, Omar, Presley, and a handful of others. They call them progressives, and they stand firm. They bring it to raw. They stand on business. You know, they come with the facts, come with the truth. They expose all the stuff that the other side is bringing, and they just stand strong and firm. That's
It
why
is
they don't like them.
Yep. I did look up whether or not there was any relation to Vespucci. As I was saying, it says his ancestry is primarily German on his father's side and Scottish on his mother's side. That Scottish part is what got him into the presidency, because we've already talked about that. The
Hmm.
Ulster Scots lineage is tied to the presidency. This is why he's also related to Obama. He
Hmm.
related to Hillary. He
Hmm.
related to the Bushes. And they don't want to tell y'all that. And that's the other thing. I'm like, listen, a lot of this is just cousins talking trash to each other.
Hmm.
That's really what it is. Because people will post what Hillary Clinton is saying about him, and I'm like, listen, that's your cousin. So I don't want to hear from you either. Because you could have told your drunk cousin to put the pen down. You could
Hmm.
have called and said, hey, cuz, you're tearing up the country because you put the pen down. But no, you do that. You want to posture online like you don't know this man is related to you. He's related to you. His paternal
But
grandfather, Friedrich Drumpf, immigrated to the United States from Karlstadt, Germany, in the late 19th century. Not even the 19th century. Okay. His mother, Mary Ann MacLeod, was a Scottish immigrant. So your parents was immigrants. So who is this really about? Why do you
hmm
hate immigrants so much?
because of their skin tone.
Amerigo Vespucci, we know, was an Italian navigator and cartographer born in Florence. He worked for the powerful Medici family before becoming an explorer because he lied. And the continents of the Americas were named after him in 1507. The felon has acknowledged this historical fact in speeches pointing out the Italian heritage that wonderfully shaped all of our country. He shaped it all right with a lie,
Hmm.
with several lies.
There's a connection. The lie.
Liar and deceiver and a banker. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that's probably why he mentions him, because he admires his lying, deceitful banking self.
Hmm.
Announcement. Stand by. Oh my goodness. What is my phone doing? I here? Cannot stress this enough. I have things that just keeps opening up and talking. Well, we have come to the end of our broadcast, Pastor. Final thoughts.
Now I'm going to go where you began with. We need to recognize what's happening. Bannon is telling us everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's openly telling us everything. Believe him. I know some of y'all got that mindset, oh, this is America, not America. The fact that this is America is why you need to believe him.
Mm-hmm.
When you know the history of this country, you need to believe him.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we see them going back, when you know the history, you know that they're trying to go back.
Mm-hmm.
See, open your eyes, pay attention. And I want to give a shout out to the Republican voters that's voting Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to think it's just Democrat voters and independent. But let's make this plain and clear. A lot of Republicans are tired of the foolishness. So they're voting Democrat
Mm-hmm.
because Democrats are showing that they are still humane, while Republicans are showing that they're not.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
You're either for the people or against the people. That's really what it
that's
is right
right.
now.
That's right. That's it.
When it comes down to it, you're either for the rights of all people or you're for the rights of the 1%.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much where we are. And as I said,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna repeat, some of these folks think that they make enough money to escape what's coming. And I'm telling you now, these people see you as a part of the 99%. If you're not in the 1%, you going be treated like the rest of the people in the 99%. And some people still can't see that yet because they're holding on to this illusion that I make enough money to not be affected. Guess what? Airlines are being affected, travel is being affected. That's anybody who flies. Not just the poor, not just the people who sit in economy class. Anybody who flies or needs to fly, you're going to be affected. Unless you got a private jet, and a lot of wealthy people don't have a private jet, you're still going to be affected. If there's certain airspace that will be closed off, you're still going to be affected. If they don't have air traffic controllers or enough air traffic controllers, you're still going to be affected.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole notion of I have enough money to wait things out, or I have enough money padded to keep me from the effects. Keep thinking that if you want to. If you're not part of the 1%, or really the 0.1%, um, you're gonna feel some effects. Pastor, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for sounding off on these issues with me. I appreciate it. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shante Charles. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, or to evil, rather. So go out and be light. Take care, everyone. Be well, and most importantly, be light.